We've had the Sport Fury out driving that all this week, and just replaced the rear end, put a 323 shore grip in the back, and just getting some miles under it, getting to know it, and obviously you always find more things. Just had the air conditioning charged, pretty sorted. Just need to do more miles and see if anything pops up. So in the meantime, have been doing little odd jobs. I'm going to be doing another big build soon. I'm just getting parts ready and stuff like that. So one thing I have been doing is the Volare we bought on our trip last year is getting some work done. So I'm basically just getting it on the roads. Up to now it's been off the road for quite a few years, I don't know how long. Not restoring it as such, might be doing that later. So having fun not fitting these extractors. They were $200 specials on eBay or Summit Racing or something. What a nightmare. Extremely tight, no room for error. Had to lift the engine up, pull the starter motor, move the steering box to the side, drop the drag link, end up replacing the starter with a new high torque starter, and these stupid extractors hang down below the drag link, so the drag link actually goes through the extractors. So luckily I don't run my cars very low, but it's not ideal. It's not how I'd make them normally, but anyway, that's what you get for buying cheapies, but it'll still do the job. Just trying to get the car up and running so we can reliably drive it. Aesthetically that's going to have to wait. Been quite a bit of messing around. I've just realised the two brake calipers I didn't look at early enough are completely seized. So I think the most economical way is to buy some rebuilt ones. They're actually quite cheap. So that's on their way. Fuel system is finished. It's got a dual exhaust on it now, and we've done completely new brakes, so new steel lines, new wheel cylinders, shoes, obviously handbrake cables. Well, I am missing the centre part of the handbrake, so that needs to be bought. I had to replace all the steel lines front to back, so this is all new now, handmade all those. So I shouldn't have any problems there. The extractors are in. I just got to pack the bearings. I've had to even do some repairs on the steel lines because this was seized. The flare was seized. New rubber lines. So everything's pretty much there, just waiting on the radiator. And I'm going to attempt to build the front splitter or spoiler I had on these. I believe it's not available, so I'm going to have to look it up online and see if I can get some pictures. And I'm probably just going to hand make that out of steel. Fitted the one missing flare. Believe it or not, they cut these fenders right down. You can see that on the inside. They cut a good 3/4 of an inch off the wheelhouse of the fender to give it a bigger wheel opening. So they are quite different when you look at them up close. Same with the rear, they do some altering in the back of the wheelhouse as well. It's done pretty roughly, I might add. Got the new tyres on. I went for a much bigger tyre than what I had on it before, so I'm trying to fill up those quarter panels. So just about to start making up the front spoiler, and noticed that the cross member, radiator support cross member, was bent backwards. Possibly a good chance how the spoiler got smashed off in the first place. But also it's had a minor crash because it's got a new all stock fender put on the front here, and the bumper's been replaced. So I gather that what happened at the time. So anyway, we just got a little dozer here, nicknamed Dozer. It's a hydraulic puller. Now I've just got pushing off the K-frame because I know that it's not going to take a lot of effort. It's only fairly light sheet metal. You can see that pulling it backwards. It's going to bend the lower case slightly, but the main thing, it pulls it forward. And I'll go back in afterwards and then I can tap that straight. Anyway, it's just another little handy tool for, you can't beat the power of hydraulics. Okay, so onto the spoiler. Now I've only got photos to go by. I've got no real instructions or anything like that, so I figured this is a good place to mount the spoiler, as good as any piece I just straightened. I can utilise the factory bolts and maybe a couple of screws at the end. Looks like it's had a screw there and there, but I really don't know if that's how they were. And I've estimated roughly the angle that it's going to come out, and I don't think it would protrude past the bumper, just purely for driving points of view. So that's bored it out to about 1200. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to cut a rectangle 1200 by about 280 mil, given that I've got to fold it and I've got to do some edging and stuff. So we'll see how it works out. Here's a photo of the what it's supposed to look like. So well, you can see that. There's a couple of pictures I got on my phone, so we'll see how that works out. I'm at my buddy Scott's place. He's just lending me his beautiful John Hine folder. So I'm just folding up this little chin spoiler now. So that's just a good starting point. There'll be a bit more work when I get back to the shop. Okay, so now I'm going to try and put it in my little bench folder down there, and try and return this fold down like the front edge that I've done, and that'll go from this corner through there. Then I've got to hand tap a little radius down here, and I'll probably do a bit of shrinking, so I'll see how that goes. I'll have to do that on the dolly. I was able to tap a nice little radius. I just ended up using a bit of old exhaust tubing in the vise. Set it in the corner between the two side edges that were already folded up. Yeah, ended up with a nice little radius there. So now I might have to shape it a little bit this way. It's a bit too straight. I'm going to put a slight curve in it. I'll do that in the stretcher shrinker. Okay, here it is, like it or not. This is as close as I could kind of come to with just photos, no measurements. Just sort of try to scale things by the photo, size of the bumper, how wide the spoiler went out to the side marker lights, just little things like that. It's been bolted up. It's got a bit of structure work underneath, bit of bracing left and right. It's bolted to the bottom of the radiator support panel basically. Yeah, so it's reasonably rigid. I mean, it's hard to make something this sticking out that's so thin that's rigid. I'm sure even the original ones would have flexed quite a bit, but it looks quite neat. The radius is quite nice. I'm going to neaten up some of the framework. I'll take it off now and buff up some of the repairs. There we go, there's the end result. Just painted in some scrap blue I had laying around. Looks pretty cool. Look better outside. We'll see how it goes. Finally got it running and able to drive it around the block. That's always a big first. If you can drive it around the block, that's a very good start. I'm just in the middle of putting a kit through the carburetor, but was throwing a bit of a curveball. The car had idled, not run very much, but idled in and out of the shop a few times, and seemed to run fine, a bit loud, but because I had straight out exhaust before. And when I finally got the car started, everything else was done, I noticed a knocking noise, which I did not notice before, which was very distressing. What I found was, after investigating, I felt like it was knocking, sounded like a connecting rod knock. I could put my stethoscope down near the back of the engine, and it sounded like it was right at the back of the oil pan, and it sounded like someone was tapping on the oil pan. So anyway, so that involved much going backwards to where I was before, and when I pulled the sump off, which involved pulling half the things off I just put back in, starter motor, extractors, drag link, everything I'd just put in, had to take back out again. I finally got the sump off, and I checked the main big end bearing at the back, which is the one that I suspected. And this is what I found. So this is the connecting rod bearing. I don't know how well you can see that in a light, but it is shot. It's gone through multi-layers of the actual bearing itself. But luckily for me, the bearing hadn't spun. Now there's a process, if you're not familiar with it, for measuring clearance, and it's a product called Plastigauge. This is it here. I know you can see the tiny little bit of wax is what it is. See the tiny little bit of wax strip there. What it does is you break off that little bit of strip to about the width of the cap, and then you lay it across that through here, and then you put it back in, and they can then tighten it back up again. And what it does is it compresses the wax, squashes it. And then this is the measurements. You compare how wide that bit of wax squishes to, gives you an estimate of the clearance. So if it's that wide, it's 3 thou. If it's that wide, it's 2 thou. If it's that wide, 1.5 thou. So I put the plastic gauge across the bearing, put it back in onto the connecting rod and tightened it back up again. Then pulled it back out, and it just leaves a little squish surface. Well, there wasn't even a reading big enough to show how narrow that was. I estimated about 5 thou, if not more. So that was a good thing, and I was super lucky that there was no damage to the crankshaft. The crankshaft wasn't scored. The bearing hadn't spun. And what they mean by spinning a bearing, if you don't know, is the bearing spins around from its location in the connecting rod. And when it does that, see the little hole at the, or little half hole at the top? That is your oiling for that bearing. So as soon as that bearing spins, then the oil can't get into the between the bearing and the crankshaft, and then it spins, it gets hot, locks up and spins it, and then it damages the crankshaft. So luckily, super lucky for me, that all the bearings were like this. They were shot. They were absolutely shot. And I was able to buy just a standard set of bearings. You can tell by the number on the back if it's been machined or not. It tells me it was a standard bearing. Don't know if you can read that. So I put a set of bearings in it, and also when I had the sump off, the poor old car, the sump had like an inch of slurry like this, almost like grease. It wouldn't drain. That's how thick it was. It would not drain out the drain hole. And that was sitting right on the pickup, the oil pickup for the engine. So the poor car, I don't know how the thing ran. It did have 60 psi oil pressure before I pulled it apart, so I was lucky. I think I caught it just in time. Anyway, long and short of it, once I changed all those, it fixed it, and the noise has gone away, got good oil pressure, and it's running beautiful. So at the moment, I'm just putting a kit through the old thermoquad. It was playing up, a bit grubby, so I've got a kit for it, and I'm just cleaning it and going through all the holes and orifices and make sure everything seems to be functioning properly, and I'll put that back together. It's just a matter of laying everything out as you pull it apart. It does come with your schematic, so if you get stuck, you can check your schematic drawing, and it gives you an idea what goes where. And then hopefully I can bang it back in and it'll go like it's supposed to. Overall, it's going pretty good. It just needs refining. It's a bit sloppy, it's a bit this, it's a bit that. It just needs a bunch of little things, which is typical of a car. It's been sitting, and also I don't think it's been very well maintained, purely because of the oil conditions. So it doesn't look like it's ever been changed, the oil, the poor thing. Anyway, it'll be all right now. So I've been messing around with the Volare for a couple of weeks now, so it's been quite a bit of work getting it back on the road again, so to speak. I don't know how long it's been off the road for, but it's taken quite a few issues to get the car, hopefully, to a running reliable stage. That's the plan anyway. So the latest was an oil leak at the back of the intake manifold, so I wasn't expecting that. So I have done a couple little short drives just up and down the street, but I'm going to take it for a reasonable drive. We'll take you along for the ride, see what you think. Seems to be working. Fuel gauge, temp gauge, speedo, that's a nice start. It's always a nice thing when you get a few extra things working that you're never sure about. Well, it's not feeling too bad. It still feels like an old car that's really needs restoring. It's running reliably, I think, but steering is a little bit loose. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's mostly in the steering box, but just a little bit rattly, and the diff's got a bit of a whine. I think the car will still be coming to pieces when I do the body and paint. I'll probably do a bit more restoration mechanically, but I wanted to get it to a point where it was running and driving, and I think I can comfortably do that now. Feels like it's got a bit of power. Doesn't feel lazy, that's for sure. Got a bit of a note to the exhaust. Overall feels pretty good, considering, as I said, it still feels like a car needs restoring. I'll give a bit of a burst up the hill here. Choke hasn't come off yet, so the secondaries won't work at the moment until it gets up to full temperature, but I can tell it's got, I mean, I've given it a few blasts earlier, it goes quite good. Still remembering it's 1978, you know, there wasn't a lot to look forward to as far as performance by then, but these were considered pretty good for 1978, but just not good compared to the late 60s and early 70s. It still goes alright, I'm happy with it. I've gone as far as I'm probably going to go for now. Mechanically is basically sorted, gets up and drives and goes actually pretty well. All through the brakes, fuel, tyres, exhaust, been all through that now, so should be able to drive it reliably. I basically fully assembled it now. There was a lot of stuff that had been taken off. Put all the interior back together, fitted the headrests back in and all the little plastic covers. Put new carpet in it and new carpet on the side of the console. Basically just cleaned it up and fully assembled it, so for the future when I'm ready for paint it'll just be really body and paint. It shouldn't be that big a job looking at it. It's got a few small rust repairs needed down the bottom of the quarters. I don't expect too much down there. It's got surface rust, so it doesn't seem to be too deep. This side of the car is basically straight, apart from a few parking dings, and there's a dent in the front fender. Roof's nice, boot's nice. Back's got a small ding in the tail light panel. Otherwise it's good. This side's going to need a bit of work because it's had a quarter panel fitted and they've joined it through here and done a lousy job. It's all cracked up. Same with the door. We've painted the door, painted the quarter, and that's all cracked up. So the door and the quarter will have to be bare metalled and then just straighten it out, whatever's underneath it. However it's been repaired, I'll have to re-repair it. Yeah, clean that all up. Obviously it's got a new guard on the front, but now the flare's fitted properly. Had to readjust the rear flare because it was a bit out of alignment and it was clipping the back tyre. So I've readjusted that. All in all, new windshield and everything's there. So it's all ready to go. Went through all the lights, got lights, indicators, everything working. So the front spoiler still needs a bit more work. There's a bit more shape to go into it yet. That's a basic start. I've got to curve the ends up a little bit and put a bit of an extension on the side just to make it look a bit more like the original ones that I've seen on photos. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. Overall the car's good, drives good. So looking forward to doing a bit more with it in the future.